Yo 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 yo. Okay, we're gonna watch this sweet WoW classic guide in preparation. What's up, guys? It's Tawok. I got this. Got this. What the fuck are those? These are the spiciest peanuts in the world. I got my stopwatch. I got my deadly peanuts. I'll show you guys the back of the brake pad pack. They are sealed. They are nuts. Okay, so rules. No liquids or food allowed until completion. Chew entire contents of each level for 15 seconds. Wait 60 seconds before advancing to the next level. After eating the contents of level 5, the Death Nut, you must endure a 5-minute burn to complete the challenge. So, there's the rules. Yeah, I know you guys can't read it because my camera's shit. Do I really want to do this, man? Alright, level 1 has Carolina Reaper and Chocolate Butla. Level 2 is Carolina Reaper and Ghost Peppers. Level 3 is Medium, Carolina Reaper plus 7 pot brain strain peppers. Number 4 is 2 times Carolina Reaper plus 7 pot Dula peppers. Level 5 is Carolina Reaper, Moruga Scorpion, and 13 million pure capsaicin. So, I'm going to take the first level. I'm supposed to wear gloves. Producer! Oh my god, they're little woman hand gloves. Producer! Producer! Oh my god, they're so little. Safety first. I should be wearing safety glasses. Ugh. Well, you know, you don't want to eat these things and then itch your dick.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
I don't know why I paid 20.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done
Why
this.
did I pay $20 for pure pain? Okay, does my stopwatch work through this? It does. Okay. Here we go. Ugh. These gloves are so little. I feel like I should be checking someone's prostate with them. Oof. Alright, guys. Level 1. Oh, I'm gonna...
Hey guys, what's up? Mad Season here, back with another video for you. The World of Warcraft Classic release is approaching fast, and everyone is scrambling to figure out what they want to do.
Ogre says I should be wearing a safety helmet. Alright guys, we have broken the first seal.
In this video, I wanted to make a guide of sorts and build a checklist on how to prepare for the launch of Classic World of Warcraft, and also just give you some tips in general.
Carolina
So
Reaper and Chocolate Butla.
First, starting with the class. While I won't go into each class one by one, the main thing I'll say is that the classes in Classic are very niche. It's not like the current game, where if you have a tank spec, you're just as capable as tanking as everyone else. For example, paladins, druids, and even shamans are capable of tanking.
There's 15 seconds.
But warriors are seen as, quote, the best tanks in Classic, and
Okay.
as a result, most serious raiding guilds will focus their recruiting on warriors. For healers, priests are seen as the, quote, best, and as for DPS, retribution paladins will have trouble keeping up. It's the early days of MMOs where all of this stuff is still being worked out. There really wasn't a standard, so as a result, the balance is questionable and a lot
That's pretty warm.
I am a believer that this time around, due to our increased knowledge and skill, things will be a bit easier, and therefore guilds will be more lax. I mean, people 5-manned Onyxia back in 2005, and that was pre-AQ40, so I'm pretty sure you can afford to have a retribution paladin or two in the raid. But still, in regards to raiding, class balance, or the lack thereof, is definitely something to consider. You can still find a guild as a DPS
Oh,
druid.
fuck.
It's
I
just
can't
gonna be
believe
harder,
you've done
let's
this.
say, compared to a combat rogue. So you gotta stay realistic as well. As you can see here, I've listed each class and their viability as I remember it. This is a super fast and loose description, and it really doesn't do the classes justice.
Okay.
In my opinion, one of the
60
cool things
seconds
with
done.
Classic is that these classes bring more than just raw DPS, heals, or mitigation to the table. They have their own and completely unique tools and buffs that still makes them
One level
valuable
clear.
in the raiding guild. For example, druids bring innervate, which is crucial, and also they're the only ones who have a battle rate back then. So pretty much every class has some unique aspect to them. If you'd like a more in-depth preview and you have an hour to spare, I do have a full class picky guide for you in the description. It's a tough choice for sure, and with how long it takes to level and the level boosts, it's a super important decision as well.
Fuck.
And the next question is always what race to choose. Similar story going on here with classes. Again, this is the age before hyper balance. Certain races will 100% have an edge over
This
other
is
races,
Carolina Reaper and Ghost
whether
Pepper.
it's PvE
I
or
grow
PvP.
these.
And it's another important thing to consider.
Why?
My go-to example is always weapon specialization. Humans get increased skill to maces and swords, back when you actually had weapon skill.
Alright.
And this reduced your glancing blow penalty, which were basically weaker attacks that resulted from hitting enemies that were a higher level than you. It's super important for raiding, and it's one of the most important stats in the game in fact. As a result, human rogues and warriors have an edge in terms of damage compared to other races.
15
And
seconds.
on the PvP side of things, orcs
1
get
minute to burn.
5% resistance to
Let's
stun,
study.
which during Classic is huge in PvP. Things were much more bursty back then, and you could really die in a single stun, so this is one of the best racials in the game for PvP. In the description, I'll have a link to every single race and their benefits, and again, if you want a more in-depth coverage, I
Fucking
do have
retarded?
dedicated videos
The hell's
for
the
both
matter
the
with
Horde
you?
and Alliance, also in the description. And the next choice
Do you want me to be fucking retarded?
Well, first, you have PvP versus PvP, which if you started after BFA will be new to you. It's pretty self-explanatory though. On PvE servers, you have to manually flag to engage in PvP with other players in most zones. And for PvP, everyone can attack each other at all times, with the exception of the starting zones. Due to the absence of flying in the game, the world PvP scene as a whole is much more active. You will run into skirmishes when trying to complete quests, or farming a high-level spot, or just traveling to a dungeon or raid. The Stranglethorn Vale zone
It's 1 minute down.
is always a bloodbath.
Level
And the
3.
Black Mountain will be the stage for
I'm
many
shaking.
PvP skirmishes. What you prefer is
This is
entirely up to your
medium.
style. Some love it. and
Carolina
some hate it.
Reaper.
And just know that with no war mode, it's harder to
7
avoid.
pot.
Really, it's
brain
impossible if
strain
you take into
peppers.
consideration no flying, and not just that, but also stuff like cross-realm grouping. The game as a whole today has many workarounds in avoiding PvP, whereas in
Here we go.
Classic, your decision is made when you hit the separation button. Another thing to take into consideration are streamers, which is also a point of contention. Streamers are of course a new thing that didn't exist in the original run, and they're problematic to some
Push you to the limits.
and to some insignificant. Again,
Walking
it's another
on
question
a
of
razor's
every
edge.
streamer has a different community.
Going
Some
like
will have a
dimes,
negative
keep
impact
your
on the game,
head.
and others a positive one. For example,
Fucking
a
live it.
negative that some people see are the rabid communities that follow them, and the positive aspect are some of the events that they put on, such as influence events. Personally, these days, I'm in favor of streamers who like the events, but I'm also a streamer myself, so I guess not the most objective person to ask.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
On some of the reasons why people avoid streamer servers, which you may find handy. I think this one by Classic Wins covers most of it pretty well, and you can find that in the description. There also exists a website called avoidstreamers.com that you may also find handy. Here you can find a full list of all of the bigger streamers that they have on the game, so do what you will. So you got your race, your class, and server picked. Now what? Well, now you need a name, of course, and if you're like me, this is something you can spend hours on in the character creation screen, so it's best to think of that now. Start making a list of your top names in order so you can get in there right away when the game launches. And this depends on when you're watching this video, but you can reserve your name 2 weeks prior to the launch. Do note though that you have to be subscribed, which may or may not be worth it to you. Appearance can also be tough. Luckily though, there do exist many websites out there that a popular one is I'm gay. Something that you want to mess with.
Yeah, you are.
Especially if you want to pick a popular name and you're waiting that first day for those name reservations. I'll have that linked in the description. And another tough decision will be your professions. It's pretty advantageous, I feel, to level your professions as you're leveling your character in the game, especially if they're gathering, so you should start thinking about that now. For the launch of the game, I really like skinning because it's quick, easy, and it provides a
I like skinning too. A great profession,
which will be
a good money maker.
When things first kick off, the economy will be growing still.
I need that ice cream.
The majority of your gold from these vendors rather than the auction house. People can't spend any gold if they don't have it yet, so I'll be grabbing skinning myself and get some extra money until level 60, and then switch to my normal profession. And also, make sure that you don't neglect your secondary professions that everyone can train, and that's cooking, fishing, and first aid. As for it's another tough decision. Just like with the races and classes, the professions are much more substantial. One in particular that'll give you a tremendous edge over the others is engineering. They have a variety of bombs and gadgets that are super useful for both PvE and PvP, and it's seen as the quote best because of that.
Nope.
The other ones for the most part don't really have an effect on combat, and are just preference and synergy. For example, herbalism synergizes pretty well with herbs because they can gather Fade Leaf, which is needed for their blinding powder, and Swift Thistle, which they need for their Thistle Tea. You'll save a lot of gold if you're an herbalist rogue. Again, I did also cover this very thoroughly. Not to just turn this video into a plug for my other videos, but it's such a broad subject, and if I were to go over it here, we'd be here for an hour. So again, if you want more detail with that, I'll have another video.
That was like licking a hot iron!
Add-ons are another thing that you should sort out. In Classic, there are no quest markers nor dungeon maps, and many of the other modern conveniences that the current game offers you. While I personally like it that way, and will be foregoing that stuff, you may find the game to be annoying without it.
Alright, producer says I have to finish.
Add-on site, First Forge, and go through the add-ons and pick up the
oh my god!
And get those installed first thing. A popular one is Questy, which handles all of the questing waypoints, just like in the current game, so a lot of people like that one in particular. And expanding further on that, you can also mess with your system settings before the servers are up. There's a button off to the right, so set up your graphics and
holy shit!
And definitely go through that as well. And since we touched on it a bit, there are some things that you should keep in mind with a new server, especially if you're new to Classic. In Vanilla, you'll find that you need to train all of your abilities. You can only get them from class trainers, who can be found in the major cities and low-level questing hubs, and a big mistake that people will make is that they'll train everything. Depending on your professions, you'll find that early on, you'll be barely scraping along with growth,
oh my god!
so it's wise to look at each skill and only train the best ones. For example, maybe you can forgo some of the hunter tracking in exchange for a new serpent sting, or maybe the
level 4
ability isn't all that crucial to level up right away since it's just some extra damage. So just something to keep in mind.
Let's fucking do it.
Super useful for setting up for your mount, so let's talk about that as well. You get your 60% speed mount at level 40, and your 100% speed at level 60, and of course no flying in Classic, and you may have heard that it's quite a feat to be able to afford it at the
what the fuck?
Level, and it's absolutely true. Not taking any discounts into consideration, between the mount and training, 60% cost 100 gold total, and 100% cost 1,000, which is a small fortune in Classic. You can get 10% off by reaching rank with the appropriate faction, and another 10% from reaching rank 3 in PvP, which is quite easy. Unless you're using the auction house, the level 40 training is very tight, usually requiring you to and maybe level For a fresh server, it's a bit more tricky because, like I mentioned, no one really has any gold to spend at that point. You can pull it off, I'm sure, but it's just going to take a bit more effort. I always say that fishing is low-key the best profession for gold while leveling. There are low-level fish that are super valuable that at high levels will be too late to farm, and it's always worth it if you saw an oily blackmouth school to go fish it up. These are used for free action potions, which is one of the best potions in the game, even at max level. They had more points in the fire tree.
Level 5 looks straight up evil.
So later on, if I say fire mage or whatever, try to disassociate that with today's system, where for the most part, fire mages just have fire spells, or only assassination rogues have poisons. Your toolkit is tied to your class,
and they smell
not
like
your specialization.
poo.
I just wanted to mention that, since it's one of the more confusing things for those who never played before the Cataclysm expansion. So, in no particular order, let's start with the Warlock.
Level 5 is the hottest. Level 5 has Carolina Reaper, Maruga Scorpion.
This is a pure DPS class that specializes
and pure
in shadow
capsaicin
and fire magic, and is supported with a wide variety of curses and other afflictions to wear down and debilitate your foes. You also have access to a varied selection of demons to accompany you in your journeys, each with their own role to fill. Their 3 specializations are Affliction, Destruction, and Demonology. Affliction improves your damage over time effects to give your enemies a slow but steady death, and Destruction more focuses on your big hitter spells such as Shadow Bolt, or the instant cast Shadow Burn, a more direct way of dealing damage, with big crits and much more volatility compared to Affliction. And
Are you ready, boys?
Demonology, as you'd guess, this improves your ability to summon demons, increasing their health, damage, and much more. As for your
Alright, I
roles,
got more ice cream.
Warlocks are the ultimate wingman class. They're just great to have in the party.
Okay.
They're the only ones who can
Let's do
summon
this.
allies, which
Producer!
was especially important back then, since meeting stones didn't summon, and with no flying, traveling was much more cumbersome in general. Their soul stone was quite unique and much more valuable back then as well. Only this and druids had the ability to resurrect during combat, although back then you had to apply the soul stone before the target died, so sort of a preemptive battle res. Most of the time though, you just threw it on a hero, and they only used it after a wipe so they could res up and save everyone a run back. They're also the only class that can reliably crowd control elementals with their banish spell, which was castable in combat and has no cooldown. You pretty much needed warlocks for the Gar fight back then in the Molten Core. He had a bunch of mini elementals running around, and unless you had a bunch of tanks, it would be wise to have a few warlocks on banish duty. They arguably have the most useful debuffs in the game, with curses that reduce the resistances of enemies, so all of your spellcasters can pump out more damage.
That was not okay.
Their Fierce spell is one of the better crowd controls, particularly for